Captain Kor stood at the command bridge of the Shadow Wave. His three arms crossed behind his back as he gazed at the blue-green planet, growing larger on the view screen. Earth. A primitive world on the fringes of explored space. Yet one that had caught the attention of the Zorvan High Council. Intelligence indicated that humans might possess unique neural characteristics, rare and valuable for the Empire's expansion. Captain, preliminary scans indicate oxygen levels at 21%, Lieutenant Tandor reported, his voice muffled slightly by the breathing apparatus all Zorvan wore when approaching alien worlds. Nitrogen-dominant atmosphere. Temperature ranges acceptable for short-term exposure. Kor nodded, his scaled skin reflecting the blue glow of the ship's lighting. And gravitational pull? Slightly lower than homeworld. Our physical advantage will be even more pronounced. A thin smile crossed Kor's face. At over 9 feet tall with 3 powerful arms and enhanced musculature, Zorvan hunters were already formidable by galactic standards. On a lower gravity world, they would be unstoppable. The humans will hardly know what hit them, he said, turning to face his elite hunting team. 6 of them, the Empire's finest soldiers, trackers, and tacticians, stood at attention. Each wore the sleek black combat armor that had become synonymous with Zorvan conquest across 17 star systems. The Pentapex Council has tasked us with a straightforward mission, Kor addressed them, activating the holographic display of Earth's topography. We are to harvest a selection of human specimens for biological research. Intelligence suggests they possess an unusual neural structure that might be useful. Plex, the tactical officer, stepped forward. How many specimens are required, Captain? The Council requests at least 5 viable subjects. Given their primitive technology and physical limitations, this should be a simple extraction. Kor zoomed in on a mountainous region. We'll begin in this location. Minimal population density, limited surveillance technology, isolated, perfect hunting grounds. The assembled team nodded in agreement. This was routine. Another conquest for the greatest hunting civilization in the known galaxy. Drax, the weapons specialist, ran a hand over his disruptor rifle. Standard containment protocols? Yes. Non-lethal whenever possible. The scientists prefer living subjects. Kor's eyes narrowed. But make no mistake, if the humans resist, lethal force is authorized. Their world isn't ready for first contact anyway. No witnesses. Dr. Vela, the expedition's scientific officer, spoke up from her monitoring station. Captain, I've analyzed atmospheric composition more thoroughly. I recommend full filtration suits. Their oxygen concentration is higher than our physiological optimum. Kor dismissed her concerns with a wave. We've conquered worlds with far more hostile environments. Doctor, the breathing apparatus will be sufficient. As you wish, Captain, she replied, returning to her instruments. Kor surveyed his team one final time. Remember your training. Remember what it means to wear the hunter's mark of Zorvan. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. These humans are merely game. Tandor, Plex, Drax, Cern, and Dr. Vela all touched their fists to their chest plates in the traditional Zorvan salute. For the glory of the Empire, they said in unison. Kor nodded. Prepare the landing module. We hunt at nightfall. The Montana wilderness stretched beneath them as the Zorvan landing craft entered Earth's atmosphere. Its stealth technology, rendering it invisible to primitive human radar systems. Snow-capped mountains gave way to dense pine forests and crystalline lakes, a pristine wilderness largely untouched by human development. Captain Kor studied the tactical display. There, he said, indicating a small clearing near a mountain lake. Sensors show a single isolated structure, approximately 2 kilometers from our landing zone. Human life signs detected. 3 individuals. Perfect, Plex replied, already mapping approach vectors. Minimal collateral concerns. The landing craft touched down silently in the clearing, its adaptive camouflage immediately blending with the surrounding forest. The hunting team disembarked with practiced efficiency. Weapons ready. Motion sensors active. Activate stealth fields, Core ordered. One by one, the Zorvan hunters shimmered and became nearly invisible, their outline distinguishable only by the slightest distortion of light, a technology that had served them well across countless worlds. Atmospheric composition stable, Tandor confirmed, checking his wrist scanner. Oxygen levels high but within tolerance. Night cycle temperature dropping. Core nodded. Move out. Standard formation. They advanced through the forest like ghosts, making barely a sound despite their massive size. Years of training had perfected their movements, turning even 9-foot aliens into silent predators. The pine needles beneath their feet cushioned their steps, the evening breeze masking what little noise they made. After 20 minutes of careful progress, they reached the edge of a clearing. There, nestled against the shore of the mountain lake, stood a large wooden structure, what humans called a cabin. Lights glowed from within, and smoke curled from a stone chimney. 3 humans confirmed, Plex whispered, his sensor array analyzing the heat signatures inside. 2 male, 1 female, based on physiological readings. Core studied the structure. Simple, primitive, constructed of local materials with minimal technology evident. Perfect specimens for the Council's research. Isolated enough that their disappearance won't raise immediate alarms. Curious, Dr. Vela said, her voice coming through the team's secure communication channel. According to the database, this appears to be some kind of wildlife conservation outpost. The humans here monitor the local ecosystem. Core almost laughed. How ironic. They monitor lesser species while becoming specimens themselves. Deploy perimeter sensors, he ordered. Tandor, you and CERN secure the surroundings. Plex and Drax, you'll lead the infiltration. Dr. Vela and I will coordinate from tactical position Alpha. We move in at local midnight. The team dispersed to their positions, preparing for what they assumed would be a routine harvest. As darkness fell completely over the Montana wilderness, Core watched the cabin through his enhanced visual display. The humans inside moved about, unaware of the predators lurking just beyond their walls. Such simple creatures, he murmured to himself. They have no idea what's coming. Inside the cabin, Alex Morgan stood at the window, staring out into the darkness. Though only 28, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone much older. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her weathered hiking clothes blended perfectly with the rustic surroundings of the ranger station. See something out there? Morgan asked, coming to stand beside her. At 52, the former military officer still maintained the physique and alertness that had served him through multiple combat deployments. No, Alex replied, but her hand unconsciously drifted to the knife at her belt. But something doesn't feel right. Morgan nodded, trusting her instincts. They hadn't worked together long, just 3 months at this remote wildlife monitoring station. But he'd learned quickly that Alex's hunches were usually correct. Archer's doing a perimeter check, he said, referring to their third team member. Should be back in 20. Alex turned from the window. The satellite uplink working yet? Still down. Storm must have damaged something. We're offline until tomorrow at least. She frowned. Convenient timing. Morgan raised an eyebrow. You think our visitors arranged that? I think coincidences make me nervous. She moved to the cabin's central room, where maps and monitoring equipment covered a large table. Especially when they follow those strange readings we detected last night. Morgan checked his watch. It's nearly midnight. If they're coming, it'll be soon. Alex nodded, reaching beneath the table to unlock a hidden compartment. From it, she withdrew what appeared to be a standard hunting rifle, but the subtle blue glow from its sights suggested it was anything but standard. Let's make sure we're ready to welcome them properly, she said. At precisely midnight, Core gave the signal. Execute infiltration protocol. Remember, minimal damage to specimens. Plex and Drax moved silently toward the cabin, their stealth fields rendering them nearly invisible in the moonlight. Tandor maintained the perimeter, while CERN monitored the landing craft's systems remotely. Dr. Vela stayed back with Core, monitoring vital signs and environmental conditions from a safe distance. No detection technology evident, Plex reported as he approached the cabin's rear entrance. Primitive locking mechanism. Proceed, Core ordered. Plex reached for the door, his specialized tools ready to bypass the simple human lock. But as his hand touched the wooden frame, a faint click reached his enhanced hearing. Wait, he began to say. Too late. A silent pulse of energy rippled through the clearing. To human eyes, nothing would have appeared to happen. But to the Zorvan hunters, the effect was immediate and alarming. Their stealth fields flickered and failed, leaving them fully visible in the moonlight. Stealth technology compromised, Drax hissed, ducking into the shadows beside the cabin. Some kind of electromagnetic pulse. Core's disciplined mind raced through possibilities. Impossible. The intelligence reports indicated no such technology in this region. Nothing capable of detecting, let alone disrupting, Zorvan stealth fields. Continue the mission, he commanded. Switch to direct approach. Plex, breach the entrance. Before Plex could comply, the cabin door swung open on its own. Standing in the doorway was the female human, seemingly unsurprised by the presence of 9-foot alien hunters on her porch. Evening, gentlemen, she said calmly, as if addressing expected guests. I believe you're trespassing on a federal wildlife preserve. For a brief moment, the Zorvan hunters froze in confusion. How had she known they were there? Why wasn't she displaying fear or shock at their alien appearance? The moment of hesitation proved costly. From the forest behind them came a whistling sound, followed by a sharp impact as something struck Tandor in the shoulder joint of his armor. He staggered, looking down in disbelief at a primitive arrow, now emitting a low-level energy pulse that was interfering with his suit systems. Ambush, Core shouted. Defensive positions! But the warning came too late. More arrows flew from multiple directions, each finding vulnerable joints in the Zorvan armor with uncanny precision. CERN took a hit to his knee joint, while Drax barely dodged one aimed at his throat. The female human, Alex, hadn't moved from the doorway. She simply watched, that same calm expression on her face. Full combat protocol authorized, Core commanded, drawing his disruptor rifle. Subdue all resistance! Plex raised his weapon toward Alex, but she moved with surprising speed, ducking inside the cabin as energy blasts splintered the wooden doorframe. Drax fired toward the tree line, attempting to neutralize the unseen archer. Captain, Dr. Vela's urgent voice came through Core's communicator. Our life support systems are registering strain. The oxygen content is affecting our blood chemistry faster than anticipated. We need to complete the mission quickly. Core felt it too, a slight lightheadedness, his breathing becoming more labored despite the apparatus. The Earth's atmosphere was richer in oxygen than Zorvan physiology was designed to process, creating a subtle intoxicating effect that would eventually impair judgment and reflexes. Press forward, he ordered. Plex, Drax, secure the interior. Tandor, maintain perimeter despite your injury. CERN, return to the landing craft and prepare for immediate extraction once we have our specimens. Plex kicked in the cabin door, his massive frame splintering the wood as he entered with weapon raised. Drax followed, scanning for threats with practiced efficiency. The interior of the cabin appeared empty at first glance. Simple furnishings, monitoring equipment, the remains of a fire in the stone hearth. But the Zorvan hunter's sensors detected movement upstairs. Life signs on the upper level, Plex reported. Moving to secure. He started toward the staircase, but as his foot touched the first step, the wooden floor beneath him gave way. Not a natural collapse, a triggered trap. Plex crashed through, disappearing into a hidden pit beneath the cabin. "Primitive traps!" he snarled through the communicator. The sound of him struggling to free himself from what appeared to be some kind of adhesive substance coming through clearly. Drax backed away from the staircase, weapon swiveling to cover all approaches. "Captain, these humans were prepared for us. This doesn't match any intelligence reports." Before Kor could respond, the older human male appeared at the top of the stairs, holding what appeared to be a modified projectile weapon. Unlike the female, his expression was grim, determined. "You picked the wrong cabin, friends," he said, then fired. The weapon discharged not bullets, but some kind of specialized electroshock projectiles. They struck Drax's armor, sending cascading energy disruptions through his systems. He convulsed, his rifle firing wildly into the ceiling before he collapsed. Outside, Kor heard Tandor cry out in pain, rushing to the window. He saw his perimeter guard engaged in hand-to-hand combat with a third human, younger, more agile, wearing camouflage that had somehow masked him from their sensors. This was wrong. All wrong. Humans were supposed to be primitive, disorganized, easy prey, not prepared, not waiting with countermeasures specifically designed to combat Zorvan technology. "Abort mission," Kor commanded through the team channel. "Fall back to extraction point. Something is very wrong here." But as he turned to retreat, he found the female human, Alex, standing behind him, having descended silently from the cabin's roof through a hatch he hadn't noticed. "Leaving so soon, Captain?" she asked. And for the first time, Kor felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. Was it fear? "You will be subdued and taken to Zorvan for study," he stated, trying to maintain authority despite the rapidly deteriorating situation. "Your resistance is futile against the might of the Empire." Alex smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You know what your mistake was? You thought you were the hunters." She raised her modified rifle. "Welcome to Earth, Captain. On this planet, we're the apex predators." She fired, and Kor's world exploded into pain. Consciousness returned to Kor in waves of agony. His breathing apparatus was damaged, forcing him to inhale the oxygen-rich Earth atmosphere directly. Each breath sent fire through his lungs, his Zorvan physiology struggling to process the excessive oxygen. He was restrained, bound to some kind of chair in what appeared to be the cabin's basement. His armor had been removed, leaving him in the base garments worn beneath. Before him stood the three humans, Alex, the older male called Morgan, and the younger one who had ambushed Tandor. "He's awake," the younger one, Archer, noted, stepping back slightly. Alex approached, studying Kor with the clinical interest of a scientist observing a specimen. The irony wasn't lost on the Zorvan captain. "Where are my soldiers?" Kor demanded, his voice weaker than he would have liked. "The one at the landing site didn't make it," Morgan said, his tone matter-of-fact. "He tried to activate some kind of self-destruct sequence. We couldn't take chances." "The others?" Kor pressed. "One died in the cabin," Alex replied. "Your tactical officer, we think. The rest are being processed." Kor struggled against his restraints, but they held firm. "You have no idea what you've done. The Zorvan Empire will raise your planet for this insult." Morgan actually laughed at that. "They can try." Alex pulled up a chair, sitting opposite Kor. "We've been watching your ship since it entered our solar system. Captain, did you really think we wouldn't notice?" "Impossible," Kor thought. Human technology shouldn't have been capable of detecting a Zorvan stealth vessel. "Your confusion is understandable," she continued. "Your intelligence on Earth is outdated. Very outdated." "What are you?" Kor asked, genuinely perplexed now. "Your technology. It shouldn't exist on this world." Alex exchanged a glance with Morgan before answering. "Let's just say humanity has had some evolutionary advantages you weren't aware of. Neural capabilities that your sensors couldn't detect." She tapped her temple meaningfully. We knew you were coming before you even entered our atmosphere. We could sense you. Kor's scientific mind rebelled against the implication. Telepathy. Impossible. That's a myth, a superstition. Not quite telepathy, Morgan corrected. More like a collective neural resonance. It served us well against previous visitors. Previous visitors. The implication sent a chill through Kor's body that had nothing to do with his injuries. The Zorvan weren't the first to discover Earth. Why am I alive? He asked finally, cutting to the heart of the matter. Alex stood, moving to a nearby table where pieces of Zorvan equipment lay disassembled. Because you're going to deliver a message. I will tell you nothing about the Empire, Kor declared, falling back on his military training. We don't need you to tell us anything, Alex replied. We already took what we needed from your ship's databases. No, Captain, you're going to be our messenger. She picked up what remained of his communicator, holding it before him. You're going to contact your High Council and tell them exactly what happened here. You're going to tell them that Earth is not what they thought, that humans are not the easy prey they anticipated. Kor remained silent, processing this unexpected turn of events. The mission had failed catastrophically. His team, the Empire's elite hunters, had been outmaneuvered and defeated by what should have been primitive prey. How was this possible? As if reading his thoughts, perhaps she was, in some incomprehensible way, Alex continued. The universe is full of surprises. Captain, your Empire isn't the first to underestimate Earth, and I doubt it will be the last. But perhaps you can save lives on both sides by delivering our warning. Morgan stepped forward. The choice is simple. Deliver our message and return to your people, or join your comrades in our research facilities. We've learned quite a bit from studying your kind over the years. Over the years? More revelations that shook Kor's understanding of this mission, of this world. What is your message? He asked finally. Decision made. Alex nodded to Archer, who activated a recording device. Tell them this. Earth is not hunting ground. It is not a resource to be harvested, or a world to be conquered. It is protected. The next Zorvan ship that enters our solar system with hostile intent will not return at all. Kor met her gaze, seeing in it a resolve that matched anything he'd encountered among his own kind. And if I deliver this message, I'm free to go? With what remains of your landing craft? Yes, Morgan confirmed. Consider it a professional courtesy from one predator to another. 48 hours later, a badly damaged Zorvan landing module broke through Earth's atmosphere, carrying a single occupant, Captain Kor, once the proud leader of the Empire's elite hunting team, now its sole survivor. 2 weeks later, Kor stood before the Penepex Council in the Grand Assembly Hall on Zorvan Prime. His wounds had been treated, but nothing could heal the psychological damage of his failure. He had rehearsed this moment countless times during the journey home, knowing his career, perhaps his life, hung in the balance. The 5 members of the council looked down upon him from their elevated positions, their expressions unreadable behind ceremonial masks. The Grand Assembly Hall was designed to intimidate, with its soaring ceilings and harsh lighting focused directly on whoever stood in the center addressing the council. Captain Kor, the central counselor began, voice amplified throughout the chamber. We have reviewed your preliminary report regarding the Earth mission. You claim that your entire team, with the exception of yourself, was eliminated by the indigenous species. Is that correct? Yes, Counselor, Kor replied, standing at rigid attention despite his still healing injuries. And you further claim that these humans, a species with minimal interstellar capability and primitive technology, somehow detected your stealth approach, nullified your advanced weaponry, and outmaneuvered 6 of our most elite hunters? Put that way, it sounded absurd even to Kor's ears. The intelligence we received was fatally flawed. Counselor, the humans possess capabilities that were not included in our briefing. Murmurs rippled through the assembly hall, where hundreds of Zorvan officials, military leaders, and nobles had gathered to witness his testimony. "Elaborate!" the Eastern Counselor demanded, leaning forward. Kor took a deep breath. "The humans have developed technology specifically designed to counter our stealth systems. More significantly, they appear to possess some form of neural link, a collective consciousness that allows them to coordinate in ways our tactical systems couldn't predict." "Nonsense," the Western Counselor interjected. "No species we've encountered possesses such abilities. Your failure is being disguised with fanciful excuses." "With respect, Counselor, I report only what I witnessed and experienced," Kor insisted. "The humans knew we were coming. They were prepared with countermeasures specifically designed against Zorvan technology. They referenced previous encounters with our kind, suggesting this was not Earth's first contact with interstellar visitors." This caused a stir among the council members, who conferred briefly in hushed tones. "If what you say is true," the Southern Counselor spoke at last, "then why were you spared when your team was eliminated?" "I was captured," Kor admitted, the words bitter in his mouth. "The humans wished to send a message to the Empire." "And what message was that?" the Northern Counselor asked, tone sharp with suspicion. Kor straightened, delivering the humans' warning verbatim. "Earth is not hunting ground. It is not a resource to be harvested or a world to be conquered. It is protected. The next Zorvan ship that enters their solar system with hostile intent will not return at all." Silence fell over the Grand Assembly Hall, broken only by the soft hum of environmental systems. The council members exchanged glances, their body language communicating volumes to those familiar with Zorvan customs. "This is outrageous," the Western Counselor finally declared. "A primitive species dares to threaten the Zorvan Empire. We should dispatch a full battle fleet immediately to teach these humans the cost of such insolence." Several voices rose in agreement, but the Central Counselor raised a hand for silence. "Before we reach any conclusions, I believe we should hear from Grand Archivist Telix, who has been analyzing the data recovered from Captain Kor's landing module." From the shadows at the edge of the chamber stepped a slighter figure than most Zorvan, an intellectual rather than a warrior. Grand Archivist Telix approached the central podium, activating a holographic display that hovered above the assembly. "Honorable Council, distinguished assembly," Telix began, his voice softer but carrying authority nonetheless. "I have analyzed the atmospheric, biological, and neural scans captured during the Earth mission. What I found is unprecedented." The hologram shifted to display comparative brain scans, Zorvan neural patterns, alongside what appeared to be human equivalents. "Human neural architecture exhibits unusual connectivity patterns," Telix explained. "While individually less powerful than Zorvan minds, they display a remarkable capacity for what we might call collective resonance. In simple terms, their brains are naturally attuned to one another in ways our science has never encountered." The Western Counselor scoffed. "Are you suggesting these primitives can read minds?" "Archivist." "Not precisely," Telix replied patiently. "Rather, they unconsciously process and share emotional and threat response patterns at speeds our instruments can barely measure. It manifests as what we would call intuition or hunches, but it's far more sophisticated. A distributed intelligence network utilizing their entire species as nodes." Kor felt vindicated as Telix continued. The holographic display showing recordings from the cabin attack slowed down to highlight the uncanny coordination of the humans. "Notice how they respond to threats before they're visible," Telix pointed out. "How they anticipate our hunters' movements without line of sight. This isn't training or technology. It's a biological advantage we've never encountered before." The Northern Counselor leaned forward. "Are you suggesting these humans are a genuine threat to the Empire, Archivist?" Telix considered the question carefully. "I am suggesting, Counselor, that they represent an unknown quantity. Our standard conquest protocols may prove inadequate against such a species. The chamber erupted in heated discussion, with military leaders demanding immediate action while scientists called for further study. Kor stood silent at the center of the storm, his mind replaying those moments in the Earth cabin, the calm in Alex's eyes, the coordinated precision of the ambush, the sense that the humans had been one step ahead at every turn. Finally, the Central Counselor called for order. "We will deliberate on this matter privately. Captain Kor, you are dismissed but will remain available for further questioning." Kor saluted and turned to leave, aware of the hundreds of eyes following him, some contemptuous, others curious, a few perhaps even sympathetic. As he reached the great doors of the assembly hall, he heard the Central Counselor add one final statement that sent murmurs rippling through the chamber. "And let it be recorded that, pending our investigation, all further missions to the Sol system are suspended indefinitely." 6 months later, Kor stood on the observation deck of a civilian transport vessel, watching the stars streak by. He no longer wore a captain's insignia or hunter's armor. The Penepex Council had not executed him for his failure. That would have been simpler. Instead, they had reduced him in rank and reassigned him to a minor administrative post on a frontier world, far from the glory and prestige he had once known. A figure approached, reflected in the transparent aluminum of the viewport. Kor didn't need to turn to recognize Grand Archivist Telix. "I thought I might find you here, Captain," Telix said, using Kor's former rank out of courtesy. "Or should I say, Administrator Kor?" "Just Kor will suffice," he replied, continuing to gaze at the stars. "What brings the Grand Archivist to a civilian transport bound for the outer territories?" Telix stood beside him, hands clasped behind his back in the traditional Zorvan scholarly posture. "The same mission that brings you, I suspect, new horizons." Kor turned slightly, studying the archivist with newfound interest. "You've been reassigned as well?" "Not reassigned," Telix corrected. "Volunteered. The Council has established a new research outpost on Sanctuary Station. I requested to lead the Xenobiology Division there." Understanding dawned on Kor. "Sanctuary Station? That's only 3 light-years from Earth." Telix nodded. "The closest we're permitted under the new non-aggression directive." After months of heated debate, the Penepex Council had reached a compromise regarding Earth. No military action would be taken, but neither would the Empire simply cede potential influence in the region. A scientific and diplomatic presence would be maintained at a respectful distance, studying humans from afar while preparing for eventual formal contact. "And my role in this?" Kor asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Advisory," Telix replied. "The Council may have publicly disavowed your actions, but privately, they recognize the value of your first-hand experience with humans. You are the only Zorvan alive who has engaged directly with them and returned." Kor felt a complex mix of emotions: vindication, bitterness, and something else. A grudging respect, perhaps, for the species that had humbled him. "They will come looking for us eventually," he said. "The humans. If they truly have encountered other species before us, they'll know we're watching." "Undoubtedly," Telix agreed, "which is why our approach must evolve. No longer predator and prey, but equals engaging in careful diplomacy." Kor almost laughed at the irony. From hunters to diplomats in one failed mission. "Evolution often requires catastrophic pressure," Telix observed. "The Empire has thrived for millennia by adapting to new challenges. This is merely the latest." They stood in companionable silence for a while, watching the starfield. Finally, Kor asked the question that had haunted him since returning from Earth. "Do you think they knew? The humans. Did they know the Council would send me back alive? That my report would change our approach?" Telix considered this. "If their neural capabilities are as advanced as our data suggests, It's possible they anticipated several potential outcomes and selected the one that best served their interests. Which would make us predictable, Core concluded. A dangerous position for any hunter. Or an opportunity, Telix countered, for those wise enough to recognize when the hunt has ended and a new game has begun. As the transport ship continued its journey toward Sanctuary Station and the uncertain future that awaited there, Core reflected on his brief time on Earth. The mission had cost him his team, his rank, his pride. But perhaps it had given humanity and the Zorvan Empire something far more valuable. A chance to evolve beyond the ancient roles of hunter and prey. In the reflection of the viewport, he could almost see Alex's calm, knowing expression. Welcome to Earth, Captain. On this planet, we're the apex predators. No longer, he thought. Now we are something else entirely. Equals, perhaps, or something even more complex that had no name yet in either of their languages. The hunt was over. The dialogue was just beginning. Back on Earth, in a facility buried deep beneath the Montana wilderness, Alex stood before a wall of monitors displaying data from orbital sensors. Morgan entered, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. Thinking about our visitor, he asked, handing her one of the mugs. Alex nodded. The Zorvan transport just reached their observation post at the edge of our system. They're being cautious, maintaining the agreed-upon distance. For now, Morgan added, a note of skepticism in his voice. You really think they've learned their lesson? That they won't try again? Alex sipped her coffee, considering the question. They'll try again, but differently. Not as hunters this time. The one we sent back, Core. He understood in the end. That's why I chose him. And the others, Morgan asked quietly. The research division has learned everything useful from them. Their physiology is remarkable, evolved for conquest, just like their society. She turned from the monitors to face her colleague. But they've never encountered a species like us before, one that evolved on a death world. Morgan nodded, understanding her reference to Earth's uniquely challenging evolutionary environment. The collective neural link gave us the edge. They never expected prey that could sense them coming. That's the problem with apex predators, Alex said, a small smile forming. They get complacent. They forget that nature is always evolving new defenses, new countermeasures. She turned back to the monitors, where one screen showed a distant point of light, the Zorvan observation post. We'll be ready when they come again, she said. And maybe next time, we'll all learn something new about each other. For the good of both our species, Morgan added, raising his mug slightly in a toast. For the good of both our species, Alex echoed, though the look in her eyes suggested she knew the path ahead would be neither simple nor peaceful. In the vast game of cosmic evolution, humans and Zorvan had now entered a new phase, no longer hunter and prey, but 2 intelligent species circling each other warily across the gulf of space, each reassessing their place in a universe that had suddenly become more complex than either had imagined. On Earth and Zorvan alike, preparations continued, for war, perhaps, for peace, possibly, but certainly for change. The hunt had ended. The true challenge was just beginning.